Aloha and welcome back to Wanderous. I am your persistent and resilient host, Andrew Crusoe. And today we're going to talk about Istanbul. We're almost done with Istanbul. We're almost to Nepal. We're getting closer. And now let's go to the Basilica Cistern and find out why it's haunted. So without further ado, let's talk about Istanbul. Let's just jump into this now that I've got everything set up in a comfortable way. I am very grateful. I actually have manifested the largest desk, the largest working desk, which came with this place because my landlord was very cool. The largest working desk I think I've ever had in Asia, in any of the places I've been in Asia. Maybe anywhere outside of Hawaii, actually. My Hawaiian desk in Honolulu was about this big. And maybe I'll talk about how I got that for $19 sometime. Brand new desk from Amazon. They're not a sponsor. Let's talk about Istanbul. Let's focus. Let's talk about Istanbul. We're wrapping up Istanbul, and there were three things I really wanted to see, and I really recommend you see if you go to Istanbul that I haven't talked about yet. One of them is the Grand Bazaar. Now, the Grand Bazaar is this ancient market that just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's a little rough around the edges, and I will be including a video of that walk around, just sort of walk through, I should say, a quick walk through. I'll be including that in the show notes. Show notes are always wherever you're listening to this. They're in the YouTube description, or they're in the Spotify description, or in your podcast player description. And I've got a couple funny shorts about that I put on YouTube and TikTok. But the thing that really lit me up, the thing that was really cool, that I really, really appreciated when I was zipping through the bazaar. And I was zipping through the bazaar because it was on my way to the Basilica Cistern. Sometimes when you have limited time, and I had about 3 days left in Istanbul at this point, sometimes you just have to be very strategic. And I noticed where I was, I could go through the bazaar, through the market, and then pop out near Basilica Cistern, or the Yerbatan Sernece, which is, we'll get to that. It's one of the coolest things in Istanbul, by far. But I wandered through, and I came across the bulb lamps. I don't know if you know about the bulb lamps, but these are gorgeous. I had 2 of these when I lived in Honolulu. I had one that was a single bulb, and these are handmade. I'll try to describe this. Just imagine a stained glass window, maybe akin to the ones you may see in Paris or Brussels. Imagine one of those broke into a million pieces, and the colorful stained glass fell to the floor, and then an eccentric man glued them to the outside of a clear bulb of glass, and then put a light bulb inside that bulb, and it was also beautiful and ecstatic in its use of color. That's kind of what we're going for. People who support this show will get some of the gorgeous photos of my bulb exploration. That's going to be at patreon.com, Patreon/Hello Crusoe, Hello Crusoe, for just $10 a month, $10 a month. You can cancel anytime. You get tons of unreleased photos and video, and you also get hours and hours and hours of audiobook material as well from 10,000 Hours in Paradise, my beloved Hawaii series. I think that these photos, I have over 30 for this week that I put together. These photos are really eye-popping. The bazaar was just gorgeous. And the cistern, well, we're going to get to the cistern. The cistern's its own wild story. But these, I don't know, it was so cool to be like, and now I know where these are from. I get to witness the artistry of these, and they're like brass lamps with the bulbs, and they hang, and some of them there were 14 bulbs in a spiral pattern. So they have this central column that supports all the bulbs. And it's really gorgeous. If you don't want to join the Patreon, that's totally fine. You can also just look up Turkish bulb lamp. But these ones in particular were majestic and kaleidoscopic, honestly. On my way to the Basilica, I also wandered through, of course, tons of carpetry. I mean, Turkish carpets are famous for a reason. There's so many skilled artisans that still make carpets by hand in Turkey, and it really was a treat. You really feel like you're stepping into a portal into the past. It's a very interesting feeling. It's a very refined, aristocratic kind of, but also it's very spiritual. The patterns that they use, I really felt moved. I really felt moved by what they were doing there. And there were also like free fountains, which I don't know if you're supposed to drink from these, but there are fountains at the intersections. I mean, if you saw the photos of Brussels, or there are markets, open air markets in Brussels that have these coverings in Belgium or all over the world. It's like that, only massive, just like goes on for football fields and hectares and hectares. You could get lost. I mean, it's kind of a grid, but not really. So then I pop out, from this cover, because it's a covered area. It's like a domed, sometimes not, dome, just kind of like these canopies over you. And I popped out, and I found myself walking by a store called The Magic Carpet that had even more carpets, and had to take a few photos of that. I will say that Istanbul in October, depending on the October, but I feel like most Octobers, is quite fantastic for weather. It's not too hot. It's not that rainy. I think it maybe rained once in the 10 days I was in Istanbul. Just wild. And I stumbled across this like outdoor dining area where all the restaurants had put their tables out onto the street. And it was like a little party, with the street trees and the very color of this area. I'll have to look up exactly what the name of the neighborhood was, but some of the buildings were painted like mauve and lime and lemon colors. It was really colorful and very eye-popping. So that's another treat that the supporters are going to get. But let's get to the Basilica Cistern. This place is amazing. As you will see from a pillar of a sign outside, the Basilica Cistern was constructed by the Roman Emperor Justinian, or Justinianus, in 542 AD. It was to provide water to the great palace. This place is really big. They actually forgot about it. Sometimes these places change hands, and it was just built over, and it was forgot about for hundreds of years, which is crazy because there are 336 marble columns holding the whole place up. It's mostly underground. And the public called it Yerbatan Cistern, or Yerbatan Serneci in Turkish. And it's just huge. I mean, these columns are 9 meters tall, which is, 27 feet tall. It's a vast space. And as I learned recently, and as I'll put in the show notes, it was even featured in the, I believe, second James Bond movie, From Russia with Love, which is a very funny clip to see after having been there. There are some cool little hidden gems and things that people feel are a little bit haunted. But I will first describe just going down. I mean, you get in and they take card, which is nice. And because the lira was kind of weak at the time, it really wasn't expensive. I think it was, for me, or for a European, it'd be around 10 euros, about $10 at the time I went, which was 2022. Not to date this show too much, but it might have been less. It might have been like $9. I think it might have been like $9, yeah. So you get your ticket and you go down, and then you take a right, and it's a dark, bizarre space at first, and you make your way down 2 sets of stairwells, and you get to this lower level, and the immensity of the space will strike you. I mean, columns going off as far as you can see. It's almost like an underwater palace itself. And most of the water is not there anymore. I mean, this place used to be filled to the brim. Now there's only a few centimeters. You could barely put a tuna in here. But there are carp, apparently, little carp It's crazy. I did see a few tiny fish, and what they did during the restoration, they restored it a little while back. They put in an entire lighting system which seemed to favor oranges and greens. So all of these curving, imagine these curving archways above the pillars. Again, these pillars are 9 meters tall. These curving archways, very classically Roman style, are just backlit by these kind of creepy orange glow. And I've got a few photos of just the water being lit by green underneath the orange. So the Turkish people have a fun relationship with color. It looked really cool, but it was also just, a little bit unsettling at the same time. Of course, I got the obligatory photo of me in front of the, What was really cool, though, was sometimes the orange lights would turn off and the whole place would just be backlit from below, underlit in green. And that's when the Medusa kind of vibe came in. Of course, Medusa from Greek myth had the ability to turn men into stone. And her hair was all snakes. This is a very old character, right? And there are two Medusa heads. There are two Medusa heads toward the back. It says they have these walkways, right? These elevated walkways they've built so people can just walk around the whole space. It's sort of a loop, and there's a few areas that are a bit of a grid, but the place is huge. I can't get over how huge this place was. And they're playing like tranquil music, and interspersed in between some of the pillars, of which there are 336, I might remind you, were pieces of modern art, which will also be included for people who support the show. There was a large hand that was pretty striking, just sticking up out of the stone hand, big stone hand lit in orange. But the Medusa heads are original, and they don't really know why the Medusa heads are there. One of them is lying on its side, and one of them is upside down. But actually, the creepiest thing in the entire place was this, it's like a new piece of art. It wasn't very clear to me. It was in the shadows, and I had to turn my camera sensitivity up. If anything down here is haunted, it's this thing. It was like a smirking. People who subscribe to my Patreon, I want to know your opinion on this, because this thing is terrifying. It has like the shrieking Medusa snakes, unlike the originals. I think this is a newer piece of art, but it was tucked in the corner, in this dark corner. So I had to turn my sensitivity up on my camera, and it's sort of just like sitting on this leaf. Maybe it's part mermaid, but it has this terrifying whole vibe. It has a whole vibe of its feet are up on this. I think the feet are up on this leaf, and it's just looking out to everybody as they walk by, with the snakes all up in her hair. I think it's a new piece of Medusa art, and it was just chilling. And the fact that they didn't even label it, it was just tucked away. At least I couldn't find a label. Maybe I missed something, but it was tucked away in the far corner, right after the Medusa heads. Was really unsettling. Really, really unsettling. So you keep going, and you see the hand, and in different angles. It's very artistic. And then you see the weeping column, which they believe was erected as a memorial for the significant number of people who died building this. Now, they believe that this was made by thousands of Roman slaves. It was a very big project. The place is, like I said, just massive. And the weeping column, or the crying column, has these teardrop shapes, dozens of teardrop shapes just covering the whole surface. And it's well lit. It's an attraction. It's definitely an attraction within the cistern. But you'll get to these places in the cistern because it's partly filled with water. There's these beautiful reflection effects that happen. I think that's why they filled it partly with water, so you can get some very beautiful artistic shots. You keep walking, and of course there's more creepy art. I don't know what some of these. There was a woman with very long arms. very unsettling things. I just tried to capture some of the beautiful symmetry of the place and just appreciating the green to orange alternating patterns that were happening. Really beautiful space, really beautiful area. And of course, they've gone in, and you can tell they've gone in, they've actually tried to reinforce with these sort of like plunger shaped pieces of metal across the whole place. They're trying to reinforce they have reinforced the entire space. I could hit you with tons of facts and things, but I will just say it's a beautiful place to wander, to ponder, to take in, to appreciate the deep history of Istanbul, to appreciate the amount of engineering the aqueducts coming from a great distance brought water to this area, because people, of course, Istanbul, formerly known as Constantinople, was the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire for a really long time until the Ottoman Empire fell. And this was really important. This is a really important place for a long time. Oh, and I almost forgot, those two Medusa heads that some people think are haunted, they're not from around there. They're from ancient Roman ruins. Nobody knows exactly why they were placed there. Some people think it was just reused stone. Most of the pillars are, the majority are reused materials from other places. But I just think it's funny that they reused Medusa heads. And they also feel like, they may have done it for superstitious reasons. They were trying to, guard against Medusa's power or something like that. I think it's pretty crazy, though, that this was completely forgotten until the 16th century. I mean, it was 1545. That's what the data says. Petrus Gilius invested stories about locals being able to draw water through holes in their basements. That's one of the ways they rediscovered the cistern. Like, why is it so easy to get water from my basement? And he investigated these. Petrus Gilius investigated this and rediscovered the cistern, which is just hilarious. It's such a delightful place. I was in there for almost 2 hours just taking photos and soaking it all up. The modern art's really interesting too. It's about 140 meters long, 70 meters wide, and it can hold roughly 21 million gallons of water. So it's intense. I wrapped up the day by taking a ferry, which I really recommend. Taking a ferry up the Bosphorus Strait for a bit. It cost me like 50 cents. And was treated to some very beautiful colors in the skies, very like rainbow clouds, weird cumulonimbus clouds. I wanted to do some exploring, and I was going to meet up with somebody up there, and I got to take a picture of one of the major bridges, the name of which is totally escaping me now, but this episode's not about the bridge. Supporters, I really think this photo is just gorgeous. The half moon above this bridge. How did I even get back? I don't know. I took the metro, I think. And because of where my couch surfing host was, my second host, you may remember, they were a bit out of the way. They were over by the Golden Horn. And I stumbled into a mausoleum, which was actually also rather creepy, more creepy than the Medusa heads. I looked this up later, and I found a photo of the sign that I came across, and that this was a mausoleum dedicated to the wife of Sultan Mustafa III. And there's a whole description about she'd been sent to the old palace when he died and came back 15 years later as the sultana after his son ascended the throne. And she did all this charity work, and she was very beloved, apparently. So they made this mausoleum in 1796, which is Turkish Baroque style. And I'm going to say, the most otherworldly, beautiful, yet kind of unsettling headstones I've ever seen in my life. Headstones that are 5 times taller than they are wide. Columns, just a straight up cylinder of a headstone. I was so tired. It was like very late by the time I got there. I wish I'd taken more photos. I've got 3 pretty eye popping. So I'm walking home listening to Bo Burnham for some reason. And I'm just I think I'm listening to Bo Burnham because I felt creeped out. I mean, there were some, I don't know, man, like there were some spirits or something. I felt some wacky energy around this mausoleum. And I'm just walking. I'm not in the mausoleum. I'm on the sidewalk, okay? I'm on the sidewalk, but the mausoleum is right to my left. It's directly to my left. And I mean, I had to just chill out. So I'm walking along, and I'm also stunned by how beautiful the Arabic is. Of course, this is a sacred place. A lot of important people are buried there, and the cursive Arabic is quite beautiful. But also, the place felt a little bit haunted. Like some of these spirits, they hadn't let go of their bodies yet, maybe. And that was the day. That was a big day. It was a really big day. I'm very excited to get to Nepal soon, but I really wanted to share some of my final adventures. I really recommend when you go to Istanbul, please go to the Basilica Cistern. It's really an otherworldly space. If you're lucky, you'll stumble upon this turbe mausoleum. It's called the Turbe of Mirisha Sultana. Or in Turkish, Mirisha Valide Sultan Turbesi, because a lot of words in Turkish end with si. And I think it sounds very charming, just in my opinion. In my humble opinion, Turkish is a very challenging yet charming language. And if you ever want to learn how to say thank you, it's teşekkürler, teşekkürler. And I was doing Duolingo when I was there. But of course, being in Turkey for 10 days does not fluency give you. So it wasn't going to be very helpful. But now I'm breaking my own language to the breaking point. I'm stretching it now. We really only have one more adventure to do because, of course, I got back at like 1 a.m., guys. So the next day I rested. I ended up like playing blocks with my host's kid. Very, very nice kid. And that was the day also. I think that was the day that I'm surprised I didn't take a picture of that. That was the day that that's right. I cooked the cashew-based cheese sauce for them. I really wanted to make them food because they had been such gracious hosts. So I made them the cheese sauce. Anyway, there was only one more major adventure left for Turkey. I was finally going to go to a hammam or an hammam. I've heard it pronounced both ways, aka a Turkish bath, an authentic Turkish bath experience, an ancient building. And I'll talk about all of that next time. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support this show, you can always go to patreon.com/HelloCrusoe and get hundreds of hours, dozens of hours. Actually, maybe it is hundreds of hours of extra podcasts at this point, and audiobooks, as well as easily hundreds of high-resolution photos, many of which were shot in RAW. And you can get involved in the community. We comment there, we have fun, and every dollar goes to making this podcast a reality. This podcast takes time and energy to create. And you know what? If you don't want to join Patreon, that's totally fine. If you can share this show, or even better, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or subscribe on YouTube. All these things are really, really, really helpful. And I really, really appreciate the people who have already subscribed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mahalo nui loa. I'm excited to tell you the story of the Turkish bath next week. I'm even going to have a fun video bonus for that next week. So stay tuned for that. What else am I forgetting? You can always subscribe. Go to Andrew Crusoe, AndrewCrusoe.com/podcasts, plural podcasts, not plodcasts. A plodcast sounds like it'd be slow and a kind of a bummer. Podcast is much more fun. And you're always very welcome to subscribe so you don't miss any of the wild adventures I have coming up. I'm really stoked to tell you about the safari I went on in Nepal, and the book, actually, that I wrote in Nepal will also be touched on. But even more interesting are the underground waterfalls, the Peace Pagoda, the incredible views, obviously Annapurna, and the people that I met there. Really special. I still get nostalgic about Nepal. Unfortunately, it's not really on the way to anywhere. And it's, it has its own, but for 3 months, I think it's one of the best moves you can make. If you want to be somewhere beautiful for 3 months, especially if you're going in October, which is the start of the awesome season, as I call it, you'd be hard pressed to find a better place in the world to be in October. Really. Good food too, good variety of food. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I'm Andrew Crusoe, and I will see you next time. Aloha from Bali, 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 Bali. Bali, 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 Bali. Salamat pagi. That means good morning. I don't know why I said that.